Hello and welcome to Quarantimes. Can you please talk a little bit more about your professional experience?
Hi, Rima. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you that you thought about me that I can share some thoughts with you. Thank you so much. Well, my professional journey now, it's close to 30 years now. And I started my career in Kolkata, my hometown, in Calcutta Airport. And I worked at Calcutta Airport from 93 to 99, and then I moved to Mumbai, the dream city, and again worked at Mumbai Airport. And then when the privatization of airports happened, GVK Group took over Mumbai Airport. So that's the time I moved from Airports Authority of India, which was my parent company then, a government, it was a PSU, to the private sector, the private sector world with GVK. And then I worked at Mumbai Airport until 2011. I also worked there as spokesperson for Mumbai Airport, handling pretty many crises, including the airport being shut for about 3 days, to relocation of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj's statue. And there were other Mumbai with all the crisis happening during monsoon, the closures and everything. But it was really, I mean, it really, that city gave me such a lot of professional experience and the joy of working professionalism. Mumbai is all about it. So I enjoyed every bit of it. And then from Mumbai, I was picked up by GMR Group, again a Andhra-based company, and I came to Hyderabad. That's in 2011 September. I relocated to Hyderabad, and I was working as the head corporate communication for Hyderabad Airport. Then I served there until 2018, and then I thought, okay, I worked enough in aviation, so why not try some other industry. Of course, it's part of transportation, but anyway, so I got this offer from L&T, and that is how I landed up working as head corpcom for Hyderabad Metro Rail in Hyderabad. So in a nutshell, more or less.
No, and it's good you're in Hyderabad. I hope you're enjoying being in our city. It's quite different from Mumbai. And
it is different but lovely people. And would you believe it, we have as a family decided to settle down, whatever the term means, settling down in Hyderabad. It's a lovely city, it's really, people are so good, very they show so much respect.
sure. No, so welcome. It's great you joined the Hyderabad family.
Thank you.
So the whole conversation of ours today will focus on the coronavirus, the lockdown that happened because of it, as well as the coming out of lockdown, right? So maybe we can begin by talking a little bit about more what you are seeing from the challenges that the pandemic has provided for your industry, as well as some of the measures that businesses have taken to limit the impact, and specifically if you could talk about what your organization has done to limit the impact of the pandemic and the lockdown on your business.
It's a huge revenue loss for all metros, I would say, across the country, because see, it's a public transport, so it's all based on the the trust and the traveling habit of people. So entire industry, in fact the entire transportation sector, uh, transportation sector has been affected. The entire supply chain has gone for a toss. But it will be there for some time, and it's a it's a one thing very good about what is happening now, especially in our country, is the unity. Everyone is united together and fighting against this. This pandemic. So that collective effervescence, which I would say is working brilliantly. But what is impacting is, other than the revenue loss, I'll also expand maybe a little more later. detachment with our valued commuters, because they are our bread and butter. They are the main stakeholders. So it's a long, long time to gain the goodwill of people, to convince people to travel by metro. And I would say, I'm sure you will agree with me that Hyderabad is a city where a lot of plush luxury cars are there. So to convince people to travel by metro is difficult. It's not very easy, trust me.
Sure.
I have stayed in Mumbai also. I have seen people are more used to public commute, public transport, but not here. So from there, we slowly, since 2017 November, when Metro started its operations, from there we have been, trying to educate people of the benefits of traveling in metro. So in state, money, stay, safety, comfort, convenience. Saving on carbon footprint.
Yeah.
Many of our stations are LEED certified. So that happened. So this detachment again is becoming little of concern for us, how to bring back things to normalcy. Uncertainty over when things will get normal, and depending on how quickly the curve can be flattened, so that people again get used to sort of a normal life as countries across the world move towards that stay at home approach. So, and one of the major casualties is public transport sector, for sure. Transport is demand on to be mobile. It's a mobility, so which means that people and goods don't use just for sake of it, but for what it produces. So these are the things we have to keep in mind. In fact, Indian Railways, I was just reading that it operates around close to 9,000 goods trains and 15,000 passenger trains. All are halted. Can you just believe it? So operations of metro rail and inter and intracity buses have stopped across the country. I'm talking about the industry as a whole.
Sure.
All other transport modes in the country, barring few essential services, of course, but you can't think of a revenue model from there. Then other than metros, buses, radio cabs, aggregators, everyone is suffering, and they can be a very touchwood, God forbid, but major careers of the virus, because we know that during rush hours, peak hours, how tight packed people travel. So that those are really a bit of concern, where again when people will start uh, thinking, gaining the confidence that yes, again we can travel by public transport. So this is one. And when we are talking about the revenue, well, even if the metros and other transports, they are not operating, but the operating expenditures, they are there, of maintenance, sanitization, cleaning, upkeep. So what happens is, they become an additional burden, but you cannot do away with them. You have to do it. So that is again additional financial burden on all the transport companies. And even a decline in travel demand due to the behavioral change of individual is what is again concerning us. We are not sure really whether there has been a behavioral change in people that we know that is happening. So whether people will really think of again going back to the public commute as they used to. So we really don't know when the revenue will live back to normalcy.
No, I agree. And one of the things is that, I remember my husband and daughter used to actually take the metro to go for cricket games, right? So Uppal, it's quite far, and it was so convenient to just take the metro. And I feel now that, some of these big sports or big gathering events are also going to be reduced, at least in the near future. It will probably have
Absolutely.
an impact on the ridership, right? You mentioned that the big piece is building that trust back with your commuters, with your community customers. Can you talk about, maybe specific steps that you are taking so that when the lockdown opens up or is reduced, how do we encourage people to come back? And maybe even talk about some things that you might have seen in other countries, right? We are seeing slowly other countries are opening up. UK also talked about opening up their public transport, and there are certain safety precautions that they've taken. So could you talk about what you are thinking from Hyderabad Metro?
Whenever the Sunrisers match happened, the metro, we we had a positive revenue impact for us. So this again, I don't know how we are going to overcome this. Then schools, colleges, we have a major chunk of travelers who are other than the IT crowd or other office goers, students. So the schools and colleges, everything shut. So we are trying all measures, different measures. First of all, to limit the impact on the business. These are, I mean, in this extraordinary times across the world, this will happen. So not an easy phase, but hopefully temporary, which I can say. So people understand. People will understand. This is for sure. That because it's happening everywhere. So all departments are working on cost saving. That is, when you cannot, earn revenue, the first and the foremost thing you should do is to cut cost at
Preserve
all
cash,
corners.
right?
Yes, because the liquidity also after a point of time can be a problem. So the cost saving and exploring different revenue generation plans are being done to burden the laws, then trying to be in touch with stakeholders, whether it's commuters, it's partners, employees, vendors, which are, I mean, they are the integral part of you. Otherwise, you cannot work in silos. It's a teamwork. So sending assuring messages that we are all ready to come back. Test runs are on for metros regularly, and even DMRC Delhi and every metro, they are running their trains on test runs, trial runs continuously. One thing when you spoke about abroad, see what happens is there is a bit of a lack of consciousness in us, wearing masks to the sense of hygiene, which should be our culture now, a habit, which lacks to some extent. Even if you see the I've just before the lockdown, I went to Hong Kong, and also even other tube rails and metros or elevated rails, wherever in other countries I have seen, people are still disciplined. Like people let you come out, and then they get into the train. So this is just small an example, but here, because of the huge rush and the maybe time constraint, the consciousness of the discipline uh, lacks to some extent. So that is something is concerning us. So maybe it will be very easy to do it in abroad, do it in other countries. Maybe it will take little time, but the beauty is that at present people have become so conscious about everything. I'm sure they will adhere to it. So we hope to start the metro as soon as possible across. We are just waiting for the government nod. So strategic plans to resume operations with all state safety measures intact, like how the sitting will be in the trains, and how many people at one time we are going to allow in the station. So those are the measures we are planning the strategies on. We are very much there, continuously doing the fumigation, the sanitization, everything is there. The main focus, of course, is the health and safety of our commuters. Then employees, being one of the major brand ambassadors, I feel, for any company, and the major stakeholders again. So the focus is also to gain confidence of the employees that we are there, the company, it's a good brand, and they are there. In fact, we are one of the very fortunate companies where everything is so grim and dark everywhere, but never any impact happened on the remuneration, the salaries. So this is one beauty of it, and we are keeping the employees also very much involved through different communications. Our HR is doing a very good role. Our operations team are keeping up the morale of the station staff, because they are the front end, they are at the biggest risk.
Yes.
So all the trainings, how to do the screenings, everything is on. So for commuters at the stations, when you're coming, how to deal about it, I'll just come one by one.
Sure.
uh, because see, we are the backbone and lifeline
Yes.
of the city. the transport system of the city, providing an essential service to keep the city moving. Hence, we have to take extra care, particularly during this delicate phase. So the key objective for any public transport operator, not only us, is therefore to maintain this service as it was before, if not even with more care, because the situation has taught us so. So we will follow and draw all guidelines for post-lockdown situation. Then, the assurance through different communication. Communication is very important in this stage. Through different social media, people are now all glued to social media. So through social media, we are doing a lot of activities to say that we are there. The do's and don'ts, which are under the WHO guidelines, and then different engagement strategies we are carrying out through our website and social mediums, different social media channels, different handles. And we have to assure our commuters that Hyderabad Metro, whenever it's opening, which we are optimistic about to open very soon, will be the safest mode of travel. Hyderabad Metro also will mandate all passengers to use the T Savari app, which we have, and record their presence in Metro. Of course, again, the Aragya Setu app to be more safe. Then contactless travel is something which we are going to propagate in a very aggressive way, like contactless ticketing, then QR tickets. We have the smart cards. So as much as possible, to avoid human contact. In fact, when things were not so serious, even at that time, what we used to do is the tokens which are used at the stations, only it was one time use. The moment it was used one time, the entire lot used to be, we used to send it for complete sanitization and only send back for the second time use. So we were already very particular about it. Of course, senior management, our MD has been sending through mails and other messaging mediums. We are keeping in touch with like internal stakeholders and also external stakeholders.
Sure. No, it's great to hear all the initiatives. And I think, like you mentioned, right, you're leveraging technology a lot more. And maybe
Yes.
part of what you said was that, although you were already doing some of the technology implementations, it's just accelerated
Absolutely.
the adoption of it. And I think linking it
Absolutely.
with
Absolutely.
other apps. And I think this whole
Yes,
concept
yes,
of
absolutely.
contactless, right, to travel is key. And I think that will give people the trust in the safety and also right in terms of becoming more comfortable with the travel itself.
Right.
I think the challenge in India is always managing the crowd. So I think, like you said, right, you limit the number of people that come into the station and maybe train the staff to make sure the physical distancing happens and is actively followed. Will be one of the challenges, but hopefully you're used to those challenges and handling of crowds. So I think it's great to hear. And I think like the last point that I really liked was that I think maybe it's time to build. People are becoming more environmentally conscious. I think part of the lockdown has gotten us all to reflect. And I think we see the change in the nature, right? Because humans are now confined to homes. So you see many cities posting how clean their rivers are, how clean the environment is. In Delhi, especially, the pollution has reduced immensely. And I think maybe that's part of the messaging that you leverage to saying, hey, what is the value of this public transport and how they can continue to enjoy the environment by leveraging the public transport.
Rima, earlier in many schools and colleges, of course, we didn't had it for our, ICSE. There was a subject of hygiene and what used to be, something like that. So I think, those moral science, the
Yes.
hygiene, the home science, those subjects, I think I know those become very obsolete,
Yeah.
but I think there is, it's time that we get them all back, because the sense of hygiene still, you will particularly see people spitting where it is written, please don't spit. And yeah, so I think those things should be brought back in our curriculum. I honestly feel so.
And I'm 100% in sync with you on too. I remember moral science was a big subject when I was growing up. Sadly, it doesn't exist for my daughter. And, uh,
Yes, yes.
yes, totally agree. So maybe building on this, we one of the areas that is very interesting to me is this corporate communication, right? So could you talk a little bit about the different strategies you have engaged for different stakeholders? You mentioned that, your corporate leadership team is also very actively engaged in communicating. So could you talk overall, what is your strategy and how you're reaching out to different stakeholders of your organization, be it customers, be it employees, and so on?
Yeah, particularly, during crisis situation, is that, when you realize the importance of a strong communication plan, that it has to be there, and the communication protocol, how it has to be maintained. The key aspect which we keep in mind is to being transparent as a company, and speaking the same language as the other spokespeople do across the group. I mean, like here, what MD is saying, we all as employees, we should speak the same language, be on the same page, and you know the the credibility building is very important. So even if isn't any crisis situation, but so the credibility building should be done. It should be, it's a very consistent and continuous process. You have to build up a community, so if anything, god forbid, goes wrong, people understand you, they realize it's a credible company. Something can go wrong, nothing bad about it. So that confidence, like now employees, we have a huge confidence we have developed in our company. Our company has donated 150 crores to PM relief fund. We have given a huge amount. We have spent on, I would say it's a very kind gesture from our group, to huge to in providing masks and gloves and other things, PPE for people. So and in spite of that, none of our salary by any means has been affected. So this is the confidence employee build towards the company. The vendors, in spite of this lockdown, work from home kept on happening for every department, and our finance department so beautifully, they without any, you see, it could have been a very easy excuse saying that things are not working, we cannot do, but they went on clearing the bills, which the vendors they get a huge confidence, the credibility of the company. So these things, of course, are as a crisis communicator, should be addressed by the entire organization. As HR will do their bit, finance will do their bit, we should do our bit, every department. Of course, virtual is the new normal, so at least some time to come. So invest in a few tools that enable this. That is also something we have to think. We have to be more crisis ready. So there's always a business continuity plan in any operating assets. So that business continuity plan maybe has to be revised. We are doing it and adhere to it. So it could be any medium, to be that matter. Then we have to be emphatic and authentic communication should be disseminated, not just framing up a story. If one cannot do, we cannot do, fine. We don't need to go and answer to every query, but if you're giving, be transparent and give a very authentic communication that connects with people, which is the main focus. Then not necessarily have the positive things to say, but having the confidence to say in the right tone and in the right note, reassuring that you are in this together, you are in this crisis with them together, and you will be there. So better goodwill than a year-long brand campaign, ours. So crisis have come and crisis may come again, god forbid. You never know, we never thought about this day would come. So those strategies should be in place, and the good intent should be there always.
Right.
And be proactive. One thing in crisis is, another thing which I missed out is, one has to be very proactive, form a task force, which is very important. We have also done here in our office. There is a the task force, where it's a centralized communication with the team with members, with the core departments, mainly operations. Our operations people are really doing a very good.
Thank you for sharing those insights. I think very, very important lessons for all our listeners. I think what you mentioned about being authentic, right? Being assuring, but not giving false hope. Making your leadership visible so that the messaging is there and saying that, hey, we are here, we are all in this together. And the last thing that you mentioned is it has to be timely, and maybe you create a task force because there are so many different stakeholders that you need to address, and you need to make sure the information, consistent information, goes out to everyone and in a timely fashion. So I think very, very important insights, and I hope other listeners can adopt it within their own organizations. I think moving on, one of the things that we've all been hearing is like work from home, and you also mentioned a little bit that's becoming the new norm. Some of this shift has been enabled through technology, right? But what I find is like technology was there even before. Part of it is the mind shift that leadership needs to have. Maybe part of it is the trust in your workforce. And part of it could be that now we'll have a lot more workforce productivity tools that are available to us to make sure that HR feels comfortable and there is a little bit more of that trust building between the employees and management. Could you talk a little bit more from your organization, and as you yourself have worked from home, what have you seen? What are the challenges you have faced? And again, I think one more perspective that I would love for you to add is from your gender perspective, right? I mean, generally, women do face a challenge of work. And I think with this lockdown, we have had a double challenge of not having house help. So have been able to do multiple tasks. And on top of it, to be able to get into meetings, to be able to continue work. Maybe if you could talk a little bit about what you have faced and maybe what things you would like to propose as we move forward in this journey.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I mean the work from home has been unexpectedly, I would say, successful. We never thought that we can really continue doing I would say maximum amount of volume of work, even being at home. Of course, not every department can do the operations people. They have to be on the ground. So those things cannot be done from home. But other than that, the departments who are working from home, at least in our organization, did a fantastic job. As I said, everyone to get the buy-in of the stakeholders. Everything was trying to be done as much as possible in order, on time. Yes, one thing I would say is the atmosphere, the professional environment which you get in office, that too, and I mean you don't get that in home. No matter how much you shut yourself in a room and work, but since there are no other helps at home, so you tend to get distracted. But then yes, technology has played a major role here, and also the communication thread should never be broken. This is the time when employees should be felt that they are important for the organization. Okay, if you just leave the employees that okay, it's okay if you're at home, it's not very important for you to come to office, so that can affect negatively to that employee psychologically. So this is the time, like how I have my regular con call with my team members, taking a stock of what's happening, being abreast with whatever is happening in the company, so we can develop the strategies and be there. So when we resume work on 8, it won't be completely that we are in the ocean lost everywhere. We are there. That is the beauty of our organization, which we have been doing, and this will be the new normal. In fact, if for cost saving, many organizations, they were encouraging on VCs to cut the cost for travel. So we were already doing it. Now it would be more. So many people and business will become accustomed to working from home now. And business, even for us, though we are resuming office, but there are certain relaxations which are given to women and elderly employees. So business will become more virtual and geographically fragmented for sure. And more working from home will mean less automotive traffic to some energy, less energy consumed, more bits and bytes transmitted, more time spent with families, uh, a greater need for home offices. Those things should be the new trend.
Question to you was, this lockdown period has been a time for reflection, although it is a crisis, both humanitarian as well as economic. It's also, we've seen many silver linings, right, among this dark cloud. Could you talk about some of the positive things that have influenced you, as well as the things that have changed your perspective on life?
uh, I the family bonding, I would say it's not that the bonding is not there, but you never got so much of time as your life went on, from student to a married woman, to a mother, to a professional woman or a housewife. So and your son's going out to study, maybe your husband goes for different tours of tours, and of course the late meetings. It was just a running in life, to be very honest. We all run, actually. Where do we give a pause to our life and be together? Maybe maximum quality time, I think. I was just wondering that before this COVID, when we used to say how do you spend quality time, so we eat dinner, we dine together. So that is the maximum one could do in the busy life. So I think this family bonding, of course, is not the something which should be always go on, but this is really I think taught us how to be together, coexist, be more tolerant. I guess we have become more tolerant and patient. And then we also, I think, learn how to give each one space, because being together always is also not a very healthy thing. You don't yourself, you to yourself. So
Yeah.
you don't so this is the time where we have understood all this. And of course, as I said, that unity in the country and this collective effervescence, this is really working amazing. Everyone is speaking the same language, irrespective of the political affiliation or anything. And the self introspection which we do now, we are getting time to do. And also reading, many people are they have got into their reading habits, their old hobbies. That is something very beautiful. uh, I was an ODC dancer, not a professional one, but a serious one. So,
Yeah.
again, I have just thought that, okay, let me start it again. So, you're very stimulated. So you're mentally, and also another thing is that you one understood how to be self-sufficient. There times we always used to look towards the foreign countries, that they don't have household, how lucky we are. But we have seen this day that we have to be self-sufficient also.
No, I think brilliant. I agree with you, right? We were on this treadmill of work and life, and I think this pause button has been really good for us to reflect. And as you said, spend quality time with family, become a little bit more creative, maybe connect with ourselves a little bit more, give a little bit more to things that you would have liked to do but never had the time. And fortunately, now you've had the time, and hopefully you make that as part of your life, right? And they say that it's 21 days that you need to break a habit. So hopefully we built new habits. We have had 40 days. So hopefully we have broken some bad habits and built some new good habits. So thank you.
They are good habits, honestly. If you really see, Rima, this is the time, if you really see, all the habits which you have developed are good. I mean, 99% of the habits which we have developed are positive, if you really think about it. So if we can just continue with it and never forget what we did in this lockdown period, I think it can take us years ahead.
Yes, I agree with you. I think we should I think the key is not forgetting, right? Not going back to our old ways. It's not like a coma we were in that we wake up again and go back to old ways of doing things, but really, like you said, build on these habits. And maybe we can tell our government next time to proactively do a lockdown every year for 2 weeks and give us that time to balance our life.
Yes, I think I heard somewhere in one of the interviews they said that in a year at least 1 month of working from home should be exercised in every country.
So on that positive note, thank you so much for sharing your insights. Thank you for being here, and it was a pleasure to talk to you.
Pleasure. It was a pleasure and it was an honor, Rima. Thank you so much.